Welcome to Durango, Colorado. Located on the banks of the Animas River in southwest Colorado, Durango has many fixings of a classic western town. The arrival of the railroad and discovery of gold in the late 19th century exploded the town's population, earning it the name Smelter City. Men began arriving from all over the world to work in the town's smelters, mines, and on the railroad. With the turn of the century and the designation of nearby Mesa Verde National Park, Durango became a popular vacation destination, attracting outdoor enthusiasts and adventurers, and continues to thrive off heavy tourism today. The core of the town still showcases its strong Western ties, as many of its late 19th century buildings are still standing. Durango has many things to offer for the adventurous spirit, but the real attraction will always be the iconic narrow-gauge railroad. Tomorrow's world-renowned train excursion departs the station at 9 a.m. The destination, a 45-mile climb to the historic remote town of Silverton. The journey takes its passengers back in time, following the same route of those seeking the mining camps in the 19th century. Tonight's objective, however, is to find camp.
questions or need assistance boarding your train, please find a uniformed railroad employee.
We wanted it too. It actually is like a semi-truck repair.
Placing the ticket right there. One pool right there. Oh, that's gorgeous. I'll be sitting there. Oh,
the Rocky Mountains. Growing toward the skies for over 50 million years, the Rockies are home to some of the most rugged territory, not just in America, but in the entire world. Known for its dramatic peaks, frigid alpine lakes, and deep forested valleys, the range has claimed countless human lives over the centuries. The Animas Valley is particularly extreme, with steep granite walls plummeting over 1,000 feet to the Animas River surging below. For hundreds of years, these mountains were primarily home to numerous Native American tribes, living off the land, cycling between high and low elevations with the change of the seasons. The discovery of gold in California and Colorado in the mid-19th century brought about a change to this rugged land virtually overnight. Immigrants from all over the world began flocking to the deep mountain valleys, looking to claim their fortune. Getting into the mountains alive was a challenge enough. But the real complication was how to ship all the necessary supplies in, followed by transporting all the precious minerals out. This question was answered by General William Jackson Palmer, who said, "We will build a rail," the exact rail that this train still travels today. Palmer chose to use a narrow gauge track, measuring just 3 feet wide to allow for sharper turning radius and easier navigation through the remote region. Dynamite, manpower, and pure determination began cutting its way through these unforgiving mountains. An engineering marvel, this 45-mile rail from Durango to Silverton was completed in July 1882, taking only 96 days. Over its 137-year history, the rail has been estimated to have transported over $300 million in precious metals. At the head of this train today is engine 493, over 100 years old, and still ascending these steep grades with ease. Though its primary freight in recent years is wide-eyed tourists, it still follows along that same high-line path of those Western explorers before them. The locomotive up ahead is powered by a steam engine and has recently been converted from coal to oil burning, significantly decreasing the risk of wildfires. The process is quite simple in theory. Water is heated in the boiler, eventually turning into high-pressure, saturated steam. Using the laws of thermodynamics, the pressure is used to create mechanical motion. The system requires vast amounts of water to complete a one-way trip, 5,000 gallons to be exact. However, with the deep snowpacks on the San Juan peaks, water shortage is never an issue. This concession car you are standing in today is in fact the oldest car in the entire fleet of the narrow gauge. It was originally built as a coach car in 1879, making it almost 150 years old. Unlike the 19th century train excursions, passengers can now travel in comfort. Equipped with a full concession stand serving coffee, entrees and even local brews. Travelers throughout history had no such luxuries. It may seem quite absurd. Why on earth would one give up a warm home and loving family to risk it all in the untamed mountain wilderness? Was it purely for riches? Or was part of it the burning fire for adventure? The call of the wild. The American novelist Wallace Stegner once wrote, "Under the rough and ridiculous circumstances of life in the Rocky Mountains, there was something exciting and vital, full of rude poetry." A journey of 45 miles, 3.5 hours, 5,000 gallons of water, 3,000 feet elevation gain, 15-degree temperature drop, a 100-year-old train, all for the destination of the remote mountain town of Silverton, Colorado. Miners, convicts, explorers, drifters, and now tourists. Silverton has welcomed them all at one time or another throughout its rich history. Not many towns still exist that can rival the nostalgia and grandeur that Silverton holds today. A throwback in time to the 19th century, with its saloons, dirt roads, and picturesque setting. Established in 1874, it has since been designated a National Historic Landmark. Many of its classic buildings are still in use today. The Grand Imperial Hotel, 142 years old. Silverton City Hall, over 115 years old. Silverton's final operating mine closed in 1992, and the town primarily relies on tourism for its survival. If there is anything you will always find in abundance here, it is the plethora of off-road enthusiasts and rigs, as the valley is intersected in all directions by primitive trails. Many wonder, why live in the middle of nowhere? John Muir may have said it best. Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home. The truth is, many men never made it out of these mountains alive, leaving their families waiting on the arrival of a letter that was never sent. Others returned home empty-handed. Despite their persistent efforts, very few individuals reaped the rewards of the risk they took. Many archives revealed the sense of freedom the men felt venturing into the unknown, a realization that life in the city was restraining in a way that they had not felt before. One journal entry read, "The trappers say there is more real pleasure in 1 year in the mountains than a whole lifetime in a dense settled country. There are no political pursuits to tire and weary, no law or lawyers to pettifog among them or mar their peace and sow discord. Their duties are confined to the horse and the gun. And when they become tired of one place, they remove to another."